I am Paul Pugliese. I'm the Agriculture Extension Agent for Bartow County, and we're here at Possum Trot Farm near Bridle, or White, Georgia. And here today we have Mr. Jim Raines join us on December 12th, 2014, to share with us some history about agriculture in Bartow County. I recently approached the Etowah Valley Historic Society about preserving some of the oral history of farming and agriculture in Bartow County. So today's interview will hopefully be one of many opportunities to capture this important part of Bartow's history. So let's start with a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and when you were born.
Well, I was born June 19th, 1947. I was actually born at Piedmont Hospital in Atlanta. My mother had some problems, and so my parents had been married 10 years before I came along. And so they went down there to have me, and we actually lived in downtown Pine Log at that time. My father was a mechanic and owned a couple of school buses that worked. They were also used as work buses. He would go pick up the people and carry them to Cartersville, to Easy Mills and Goodyear, and come back picking up kids and bringing them to Pine Log School. And then in the afternoons, he'd turn around and carry the kids home and then go pick up the workers and bring them home. And my mom actually worked at Easy Mills. And when I was 6 months old, she was approached about moving to the farm as farm manager for John Fowler. He was the president of Easy Mills. And so we moved in December of 47 to the farm. It's sort of interesting. My parents, neither one had any connection to this farm, but when they were courting, my father was up at Mount Pleasant, and my mother was just back on the other Simpson Road, and they every time they'd go by this farm, they would say they was going by home. And so when I was in the third grade, it actually become their home. They actually bought it when I was in the third grade. Lived here the rest of their lives.
Yeah. And your dad was a dairy farmer.
Correct. When he moved here, Mr. Fowler was starting a dairy, and he dairied for 30 years. And he loved every minute of it. I started out, in fact, I'd get up in the mornings, I'd hear him leave out at 3:30 in the morning, and I'd sneak out of the house and get down to the barn a lot of mornings and play with the calves till daylight, and I took care of the stock.
Yeah. Well, paint us a picture of what farming and agriculture looked like in Bartow County when you were a kid.
When I was very young, I can remember teams of mules and wagons going by. Of course, we lived on a dirt road, and I can just shut my eyes now and hear those chains rattling and those hoofs clicking on the gravel. And there was a lot of cotton grown in this area. I can remember the gin running at Pine Log. They had a diesel engine, and you could hear it 24/7. They gin cotton, and in the fall of the year, the roads would be covered in cotton from cotton and falling off the wagons and pickup trucks. So they didn't have the modulars and everything that we have nowadays. It was quite intensive, and it was families. Every member of the family, it didn't matter how big they were or how small. Neighbors would help too. In fact, when I was real young, I would help some of the neighbors to get me a little fair money to go to the Cartersville Fair. That was quite interesting.
Was there a big fair back then?
Yes. Quite a number of animals shown. I would say there could possibly have been 150, 200 head of
Wow.
livestock of cattle.
Wow.
Cattle in the show barn, and then I remember the ladies would bring their pies and all kinds of canned goods and everything to be judged.
Yeah.
It was a big affair. We didn't have Six Flags and all these kind of places those days.
How many dairies do you recall being in Bartow County at that time?
They were up in this area. There was probably a dozen or more dairies.
Yeah.
Weren't very big. Most of them were small, 25, 30 cows. There was 2 or 3 that 50 to 75 head.
How big was your dad's operation?
Oh, he got up to about 65, 70 head.
That's a big one, yeah.
He was, they first shipped the milk in cans, and Mr. Bud Nally would come by. He had a dairy, but he was at the upper end, and he would pick up everybody's milk and carry it to Cartersville to be processed. Medigo Dairies was in Cartersville, and then they went to Book Tank, and my father got a 5,000 gallon tank, and that would hold 2 days milking. And a lot of the other dairymen got smaller tanks, and they ended up having to get larger ones. They didn't have enough capacity, but he never did have to get a bigger one. He got a big enough one to start with. It was quite different when we started. The dairy at Cartersville closed down, and so we had to ship our milk to Gadsden, Alabama to be processed. And it was sort of interesting. We had inspectors from the plant. We had county inspectors. We had state of Georgia inspectors. We had inspectors from the state of Alabama even came over and inspected us. So we had to stay on our toes pretty close back then.
Yeah. And you were involved with 4-H and FFA at Cass High School. So.
Cass High School, and actually I started 4-H in the 4th grade at Pine Log. Was my first endeavor with 4-H, and showed Holsteins from the 4th grade through high school. We were involved with showing in 4-H and FFA.
And your county extension agent at that time, did he have a good influence on you?
Oh, yes. So, can remember quite well Avery Holland coming to Cass High School to interview me for the radio programs. We would go field trips up in the mountains. I remember going 2 or 3 times with him. And Walter Coverhouse was the other one, and we did a lot of different things that we'd go to and we were involved in.
What was your favorite part of 4-H?
Oh, I guess showing cattle was a big part of it. It was an exciting time to load your cattle up. And I had a sister 4 years younger than me, and I ended up getting to prepare cattle for myself and for her. So between the two of us, we had a pretty good string of cattle to groom.
Very good. And of course, you graduated from Cass High School and then went on to college. Tell us about your college experience.
Well, I ended up going to Berry. That wasn't that far away, but it seemed like it was a long ways. It was totally different for someone that raised in the country and not many kids around, and getting to go to school with people from all over the world and from all over the United States. Met a lot of nice people. Met your mom and dad.
Yeah. No connection.
In fact, Harry and I were both in the ag club at Berry together. Showed cattle. We'd show some of the Berry cattle at school.
There's several Berry alumni that have settled back into the area over the years that you probably know.
Oh yes, quite a few of them. Mike Gaines is one of them, and just different ones that have gone to Berry that I went to school with.
So what was Berry College like at that time? And I assume you had the work experience on campus like most students.
Yes, I guess they break everybody in right. I started out in the new ground picking up sticks and stones where they'd cleared some ground. That was my first endeavor at Berry. To work on the farm, you had to have a 4-hour stint, but you didn't want to go into class, and either in the morning or afternoon. And so that the first year, that was what I did. But I soon found out there wasn't any girls out there, so I ended up working in the dining hall. And you could work a couple hours in the dining hall, and spent most of my time from then on in Blackstone Dining Hall. It was quite interesting. Started out in the dish room and ended up cooking, so worked my way up.
Yeah. And the degree you pursued at Berry was?
I was a business major. At the time I started Berry, you couldn't major in ag, and so I majored in business and minored in ag.
Very good. Okay. And then after college, you had a couple of side jobs, and then finally came back to farming. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, my first job was working for the Rollinses at Mountain Cove Farm out from Kensington. Spent about a year up there, and then got another job down at Meriwether County at Millardon Farms, and ended up working. They had a bull test station. They were a purebred Angus operation, and they tested their own bulls, very similar to the tests that Y Plantations up in Virginia did, and we would have a sale on farm and sell the bulls.
You've been involved with a lot of different groups and associations over the years. Tell us about some of those groups that you've been involved with.
Well, I got back home and soybeans were getting to be big in Bartow County, and I had lots of neighbors that were growing soybeans, and so I got involved in soybeans, and really it was through the Farm Bureau. I got on their soybean board, and from there I went to the Georgia Soybean Board, and ended up serving 3 years as president of the Georgia Soybean Association, and from there ended up on the United Soybean Board, and, mostly on the promotions side. We would do different things to promote soybeans. Soybean oil was coming into making diesel fuel. We sent a boat around the world, a little small ship deal, one man deal, and we'd have oil shipped into these little islands in barrels, and he would load up and go, and ended up made a successful trip around the world with soybean oil.
Wow. And you got to go on a couple of international trips yourself.
Right. Ended up in South America a couple of times. We were encouraging them to fortify their tortillas and stuff with soybean products, and we were received very well. A lot of the countries really were proud to have our product in, and it helped their population to get more nutrition into their people.
So tell us about your farming operation and how it's evolved over the years.
Well, I have been as big as 2,000 acres, all the way into Carsville and over to Cassville and up to Pine Log, but that things have changed, and now we're back to just farming here on our farm, and we background steers. We buy them out of the stockyards, and actually the cattle that I have today came out of 6 different states, and we get them in here weighing about 400 pounds, and we'll ship them out weighing 9 to 950, and we'll sell them in trailer load lots, and they'll go to feedlots out west. The last group we had gained 3.5 pounds a day, and so we can turn them over in 150 days. So we generally run 2 groups of cattle a year, and we'll plant winter grazing in the fall of the year to graze the cattle, and we also feed the cattle some beet feed that we get out of Tennessee. Actually, our feed has got M&Ms in it,
Yep.
so we have some pretty sweet calves.
There you go.
They really enjoy eating the M&Ms,
Yeah.
and then in the summertime we'll rotate with some millets, and we graze them. We have 5 different fields that we'll move the cattle through at various times, let it catch up.
And what are some of the other crops that you've raised over the years?
Well, I've been involved with corn. It was one of the biggest crops that we raised, and then we raised a good bit of wheat, and various times we double cropped the wheat with the soybeans. We were one of the first to plant canola. That was quite an experience. So we planted canola a couple of years. We even got involved with grain millet that they were going to use for chicken feed, and that didn't last but a couple of years. That didn't pan out too good either. So everything doesn't always pan out, but we try.
Right. Yeah. Now you were a Farm Family of the Year recipient for Bartow County, as well as your father. So.
Yes, my father and mother were the first farm family, and I actually remember going to Carsville High School. I think it was in the auditorium or something where they had a meal. Mr. Holland was county agent at that time, and it was, I don't know, I guess I was in grammar school, and that was a big deal.
Yeah.
We were, especially to be the first. We didn't know what to expect, but
that tradition still carries on today. Every year, another Farm Family recipient is selected. So,
that's right.
Very good. Any other major awards? You mentioned the Atlanta Farmers Club as well.
Yes, Mr. Culverhouse nominated us for their award, and we were lucky enough to receive that one year. We went to Atlanta to their meeting, and don't think about Atlanta having a farmers club, but they do.
Yeah. Another big honor is being a member of the U Harley Farmers Club. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Well, my father had been a member of the U Harley Farmers Club, and so I grew up knowing everyone in the U Harley Farmers Club. That was quite interesting. There was quite a number of prominent farmers that was in. And then I was lucky enough to be nominated, and very honored to be a member of the Uharda Farmers Club. We're a club. We meet and have a meal. We don't get involved in a whole lot of things. We stay out of politics. We don't support any candidates as a group. As individuals, we do, but as a club, we don't. We've got to having scholarships that we present, 2 or 3 scholarships every year to local students that are interested in going into agriculture.
I received one of those scholarships, and I appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, that tradition is carried on. Yeah. I think we've got 2 in Berry at this present time.
Yeah.
And it's something that we're real proud of. We have our barbecue, and first of all, there's only 12 members and can only be 12 members. This club is the oldest farmers club in the United States. This was started as sort of a government type program to get farmers involved. We precede extension of
started in 1883, is that correct?
I think that's right. Yep. They originally would, at the beginning of the year, would assign a project for each member to carry out. And throughout that year, every month, you would meet at a different farmer's home and see how their project was going on.
You did your own on-farm demonstrations, and you would share that with
correct
other farmers. Yeah.
And this, I don't know how long this carried on, but of course now we've got extension, and that's not anything that we do. We do share a lot of information back and forth.
Yeah.
Mostly informal, but we do that, and it's if you miss 3 meetings in a row, you're out. You can be excused if extenuating circumstances, but we're pretty strict on that.
So, what challenges do you see farmers facing in the next 20 or 30 years?
Well, farmers have always had to strive to do their very best, and with the number of people coming into this world, our best has got to get better. We've got to be more efficient. We've got to be more conscious of what we're doing to take care of our natural resources. We've got to not waste anything, and it's going to be a real challenge for all of us. It's a fun time with all the new gadgets that we've got, the drones, the GPS, the cell phones. I mean, you can run your pivot irrigation from Timbuktu if you happen to be in Timbuktu and want to know what your irrigation system's doing back home. You can check it out. It's very interesting.
Farming's always changing. And what do you consider to be crucial as far as your success with farming?
Well, my family, I think, is really they're never too busy to help if I need help. They're always there to lend a helping hand and moral support if we need moral support. Things aren't always, sun doesn't always shine, and sometimes we have rainy days and things get a little gloomy. But my family, my son, my wife, they help whenever we need anything and advise me to get me headed down the road the right direction sometimes.
Yeah. True definition of a family farm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Have you had any major challenges with your farm that has kind of made you wonder why you do it and get out of bed every morning?
Not really, but we have drought years. We've had some droughts that really just took everything that you had to make it. There was one year we was cutting corn silage and we were hauling it from Cassville, and my wife was running the truck, and she'd drive all the way from Cassville to the farm. And one time she got back, and I still didn't have a wagon load. It was that poor.
Wow.
And I've run all day long cutting soybeans and never dumped the combine.
Wow.
It's when you have those kind of years, you'd really like to throw your hands up, but this isn't the business that's
part of it.
One of the challenges, and you know that it will rain again someday.
Yeah. Y'all had a near miss with a tornado coming through too at one point. So.
We're in Tornado Alley, I guess.
Yeah.
We've had them to miss us a quarter of a mile one direction and 3/4 of a mile the other at one time.
Yeah.
And the last one got our big barn, but the house luckily was spared. I have neighbors' homes that I can see out the window that were totally destroyed.
Yeah.
But fortunately, no one lost life, and most everybody's built back, and everything's changed. As bad as it is, it did create a lot of jobs. Changed the landscape, I guess, forever.
Yeah.
But you have to look at things, see it a positive light as much as you possibly can. Even bad things can turn into good.
Yeah. Would you say it's important for a farmer to be involved with the community and getting to know your neighbors, and how important is that? I know you were even involved with the Chamber of Commerce over the years a lot too. So.
Yes, I have sat on the chamber board and been involved with their other programs throughout the years. Neighbors were more important. Seems like you relied on your neighbors. If you killed hogs, your neighbors would come help you kill hogs, and they killed hogs, you'd go help them kill theirs. And just everybody didn't own every piece of equipment, and they would borrow a trailer or truck or something. They would help Nowadays, we have more homes and less farmers, and the farmers that we do have don't kill their hogs. They don't have a hog to kill, and they really don't need one another like they used to. Uh, there's still a lot of good people in the community, and uh, I'm sure if I needed something, if they knew it, they would.
Yeah.
And it goes both ways. I would be glad to help them.
Yeah. And any advice you would offer younger generations that want to get into farming?
Well, be real sure that's what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's more challenging now, it seems like, in a lot of respects. And in some respects, it's not quite as challenging. You have a plan, and even though you have a plan, doesn't mean that you can't make some changes in your plan, but have an idea where you want to go and how you're going to get there, and talk to someone else that's been down that road and see maybe they can shed some light on things that help you do a better job at getting your goals accomplished.
What skills and abilities did you think would a young person would need to acquire to get into the business?
Well, you have to be a pretty good business person to start with. You have to finance, and you've got to know that you can get finance, and not many people. It would virtually be impossible just to start out with all equipment and
Cost of
everything
land
that
and,
right.
yeah.
It's most of the ones that I see now. They start out small. They have to start out small. Them and their spouses probably have to have a job off the farm, if not working for another farmer, working for the county or working for industry or something. And then even after that, probably one member of the family would still have to work off to get insurance and have a steady income. Income on the farm, you don't get a check every Friday. It's might be once a year that you get a check, and you have to stretch those times out.
And despite all that, your son still wants to get into farming, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
he that's his passion is to be a farmer, and we hope to help him as much as we can and encourage him if that's what he wants to do do it. We haven't pushed him to do it, but that's what he said he's wanted to do all of his life, and he hasn't changed his mind.
That's good. That's good. Was there anything else you'd like to share with us about your history or farming or anything as far as the future?
Oh, no, not really. It's a life that I chose for myself. I've never, like my son, I never wanted to do anything else.
No regrets.
I have no regrets. It's been good. It's been a challenge at times, but it's still been good, and I've just been honored to know the people that I've known and been encouraged by the people, the extension agents and everything that I've been associated with. It's really been a real opportunity.
Well, it was a real honor interviewing you today, Mr. Jim Raines, and I want to thank you for taking the time to share your oral history with the Etowah Valley Historic Society and your insight into agriculture in Bartow County. On behalf of the Etowah Valley Historic Society, we appreciate you providing this interview today, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.